I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who has supported this channel. I'm absolutely blown away that we have over 200 subscribers now. One of the videos is over 8,000 views. We have another one that's approaching 4,000, several that are over 1,000, and I'm just absolutely humbled. I'm so happy that people seem to be liking the content. I love all the interaction that I'm getting from the comments. I read every single comment. I'm very happy um, that you guys are supporting this channel. It means the world to me. I started this because I love music. I love classic rock, but I also love 80s music. I love some modern music, and I'm just someone who really likes a lot of different types of music, and I wanted to talk about it. And what better way to do that than with all of you here on YouTube? So I am so happy that you guys have decided to give Pixel Positive Music a try. And if you haven't, please hit the subscribe button, and so you can experience all the awesome content that I already have, and so that you won't miss out on all the awesome content that I've got planned. I know that the video output has slowed down a lot lately. I have been a bit busy. I just finished college, so I'm kind of dealing with all of that. But we're going to go back to regular programming soon. I'm going to try to get at least one video out a week, but I'm hoping to get about 2 or 3 videos out each week going forward. But I'm not going to commit to anything. So with all of that being said, onward to this topic for this video. It turns out that Journey and Neal Schon actually had to fight to get Gregg Rolie inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is absolutely ridiculous. So let's get into it. In a new interview, Neal Schon has talked about some different things. I'm going to cover the main topic of the interview in a different video. But one thing from this interview that really stood out to me is that, according to Neal, he actually had to fight to get Gregg Rolie, who was a founding member of Journey, along with Neal, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the band, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not saying it's ridiculous in that I don't believe Neal, but I totally believe that this probably happened, and it's absolutely ridiculous that Gregg Rolie would get overlooked like this. It's really unfortunate, honestly. Gregg Rolie was a very important part of the band, especially in the early days. If you go through my History of Journey series, you'll see just how important Gregg Rolie really was to the group. I mean, in the beginning, he did the vocals. He did limited vocals in the first 3 albums. They weren't really vocal-heavy band at that point. It kind of grew over time. And once Steve Perry joined the band, he was the backing singer. He did duets with Perry, he did backing vocals, and he was the keyboardist for the first 5 years that they were making albums, from 1975 to 1980. He was the keyboard player. So, I mean, it's absolutely insane that he would get overlooked by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it's not unsurprising. What is great is that Neal stood his ground, or so he says. I'm not going to speculate about whether or not it's true or not. We just have Neal's word here. But he stood his ground, and he said, and this is quoted from the interview, but 2 days before we were actually due to go to the event, I said, I'm not showing unless Gregg hums. So he literally threatened to not even go to the induction ceremony if Gregg Rolie was not inducted into the Hall of Fame with the rest of the band. And eventually the Rock Hall did relent, and Gregg Rolie was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, along with Steve Perry, Neal Schon, Jonathan Cain, Steve Smith, Ross Valerie, which is great. That's how it should be. He should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Bands go through lineups all the time. We know this. As classic rock fans, we're completely accustomed to it. Can't really think of a classic rock band out there that has the entire lineup intact. So, I mean, it happens. People die, people move on. people decide they don't want to do music anymore. The bands end up hating each other and they fire each other. I mean, crazy things. And so obviously we always have dynamic lineups in these groups. Um, and so, obviously when you're inducting a band into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you can't induct everyone. I get that, because not everyone has. I think everyone has a part to play in the legacy of Journey. If you've seen my video about the legacy of Journey, you'll know that everyone has a part to play in the story. Some parts were just a lot smaller than others. Gregg Rolie's part was not small. He was a very prominent member of the band in the early days, and he was also present for a lot of early hits. I mean, it's not like he left before the band became famous. He almost left because the band was too famous, honestly. I mean, he was there for Lights, Love and Touch and Squeezin', Any Way You Want It. I mean, he was a part of the band as they were becoming famous and in the early days of being famous. So you can't really argue that he wasn't there for the big stuff. Obviously, he wasn't there for Escape and the great stuff that came in the 1980s, but he was there for a lot of the early days in the band. So I'm glad that Gregg Rolie got to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with the rest of the band because he absolutely deserves it. It is worth noting, as to the validity of this claim, that when Neal posted it, Gregg Rolie did comment an emoji on the post. So, I mean, that leads me to believe that it probably is true. I kind of viewed that more as a corroboration from Gregg Rolie. So, but yeah, I just thought this was an interesting piece of information that we really, like, the situation happened where the Hall of Fame was not going to induct the founding member of the band. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this. Do you agree Gregg Rolie deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Are you glad he's in it? Or do you disagree? Do you think Gregg Rolie really didn't play a big enough part to warrant that? I want to know what you think in the comments. And as always, hit the thumbs up if you like the video, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.